Coming up on Tech News today, it's open mic. We've got Father Robert, we've got music teacher Kathleen, and we've got Curtis B from the chat room. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Wednesday, December 28th, 2011. Tech News Today is brought to you by NewTek TriCaster 850, a 24-channel video switcher that lets you broadcast, stream, and record HD video all at the same time. Find out more at newtek.com. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Iyaz, Akhtar.
And I'm Jason Howell.
And this is our third Holiday Week special.
Woo!
Well,
yes, it is.
And one of my favorites. I say that on every special, don't I? And
yeah.
One of my favorites.
Well, it's one of them.
Yeah. It's one of my
exactly.
5 favorites.
All 5 of them are pretty great. So
there are 4 other very good specials this week.
It's our open mic special where we have selected 3 folks from the audience who emailed us to be on the show with us. Now, we got several hundred people emailed us, so we always start with the sort of, not apology, but the, if you emailed and we didn't pick you, it's not because we don't like you.
yeah, you didn't smell.
It's not because you weren't amazing.
We couldn't smell you through the email anyway.
It's just that social hour ran long when we recorded it, and so we could only fit 3 people in.
Sorry.
That's the reason.
That's not the reason. No, it's just, we only have so much time. So try again next year, as Curtis B. did. Our first listener on Open Mic, Curtis Boyle, a.k.a. Curtis B. in the chat room. Welcome, Curtis.
Hi, Curtis.
Hi. Hey, Curtis.
Thanks. So, it was nice visiting you guys there, too.
Yeah, Curtis.
Except for Sarah, says she was out of the country. So.
Well, I do that sometimes. I apparently miss all the cool stuff, like holiday parties, Curtis B's visit.
Curtis did not bring destruction. He brought in these samples.
Which are, can you explain what these are, Curtis?
Whoa.
I suppose I could. These are, like, I'm in the ticketing industry, have been for almost 24 years now, and this was a lenticular motion and 3D tickets and covers that we did for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right after they won the Super Bowl. So if you actually tilt it up and down, left and right, probably won't work on camera, but they actually move or explode and all kinds of
you
things
get
like
a little
that.
sense of it.
You can see it.
In real life, it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Coolest job in the world, printing this stuff up, Curtis. How did you get involved in that?
I had a summer internship, actually, with a company here in Saskatoon. I'm up in Canada. That made these tickets. I was in between second and what would have been my 3rd year of university for comp sci, and they were taking somebody for programming computers for doing this kind of stuff. And they hired me for the summer, and they really liked me, so I kept saying, well, I'm going to go back and finish my degree, and they gave me like 3 or 4 raises in about 4 months. So I said, well, if you guys want to keep me that bad, maybe I'll stay in it, and that's what I ended up doing and have been doing ever since.
You actually can see a little bit of the lenticular. I'm impressed.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah. It's even more impressive in
real life, it has a lot of depth to it.
Yeah.
We were staring at it because, like, at the top of the actual ship, like, you can see it firing off cannonballs and things. So we've killed so much time looking at this since you brought it in, Curtis.
Better than 3D NFL.
No glasses required.
No.
Well, other than these.
You control it.
So how do you, what is it that interests you in tech news? Why are you following our little show, and what is it that you look for and enjoy keeping up on?
Well, basically all of it. I've been following tech ever since I was, probably about grade 7 when I first got my first exposure to computers. We had a pilot program at the public school system here where they bought 2 Commodore PETs, the original chiclet keyboard versions of it, and they would just rotate them the first year they bought them between all the public schools for about 2 weeks each, and that was everybody's exposure to computers. And that went really successfully, so the next year a lot of the schools ordered Apple IIs, Apple II Pluses actually. So that's when I got started into it and started programming, and then it just kind of spiraled from there, and I've been in it ever since. So I've always been following hardware, software, social, everything else as it's been coming along.
When you listen to Tech News Today, what's the stories that get you most excited? What are the ones you look forward to hearing about?
Pretty well all of them. I have to say my focus has shifted. I used to be a lot more into the hardware. I always keep track of like what new CPU is coming out and what new graphics card were coming out. And now, because I'm actually running my own business now, I'm spending a lot more time not just trying to get things done as opposed to fiddling around and programming and all that kind of stuff. So now I'm getting more into the software side of things where you want things just to work. So I've been following more of the iOS upgrades and Android upgrades and Windows upgrades and that kind of stuff. So more of the software side of things now.
Hey, Curtis, we've known each other since like the CNET chat room days, a long time ago. And you're a pretty high-profile guy when it comes to the chat rooms. Why did you decide to go into there? Because I know I was working at home on my own a lot. So unless I wanted to talk to my dogs, I decided to go into a chat room and discuss things and tech news because I was interested in that. Why did you decide to go into the chat rooms?
Well, basically the same rereason. I mean, when I started the business at home...
You didn't want to talk to Iyaz's dogs?
Oh, they're also on.
No. They didn't say much anyway. But, no, it's the community feeling, because when I started working from home, I mean, when I was back at my old job with a fairly large company, we had a lot of tech heads there, so I could just chat with them all the time if we were discussing anything new coming out, and quite a few of us were buying, the latest graphics cards or computers and whatever. And I missed that when I started working from home, so I started going to the chat rooms, because I'd been watching the shows off and on all this time, but I'd never gotten available to chat. And it's also a bit harkened back to the old days when I used to run a BBS back in the early to late 80s, and I had my sysop chat thing, and I used to chat with people all over the world on that as well. So this is kind of continuing on from that.
Do you look at Tech News Today sometimes and think, I wish that they would improve on something? I wish they would cover this
help
more.
Help us help you.
Yeah, exactly. This is not, and I know people on the open mic show every year are sort of like, well, no, I think you guys do a great job. That's why I wanted to be on the show. But we're always looking for, like, what's that one thing you wish we did more of or did better? Or because we're always doing the same thing. We're always trying to figure out, like, how to improve the show. So if you had something to throw at us, what would you say?
Yeah, don't hold back.
Well, there's occasions if there's a fairly big story or something that's of major importance, say soap or something like that, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea, and I know scheduling doesn't always permit this, but to maybe have an extended version of it to go into a lot of detail. Sometimes if you're trying to keep it to the shorter format, you're kind of cutting some things off or short shrifting certain other stories type thing. I know Iyaz is starting to cover some of that stuff in Ion, but just for the main audience too, or some.
Well, and This Week in Tech on Sundays gets into it more. But I think I see what you're saying, which is more of a special edition explanation of the issue, so to speak.
Yeah, it's not necessary every day type thing. It's just when you have something really big happening that. I mean, TWiT does cover that as well, but that's only on a weekly basis. And if you're trying to cover something as it's breaking or it's happening that day, it'd be nice to get into the extended discussion on it.
That's something we could think about doing. Obviously, it's scheduling prohibitive on certain days, but a SOPA case, for example, something that could have its own 30 to 40 minutes immediately following the show could be something we could easily toss to, stick around, we're going to get back into this issue in the next show.
Yeah, kind of like how they do on The Daily Show, where they're like, check out the full interview online at blah, 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 but it could be like an extended...
We could do ours on air.
Yeah, totally.
You could even do a Google Hangout type thing if you wanted to, and actually have some of the other chatters, etc.
Cool idea. All right, Curtis, thank you so much for taking the time and chatting with us and for watching the show and being willing to be on. Do you have anything you want to let folks know about before we let you go?
No, not too much. Like I said, I did take some pictures down at TWiT when I was down there, so check out my Google Plus page. I've got a few of the pictures on there. I've got a couple of little video clips I might throw on a little bit later, too.
Excellent.
Most of my work stuff is all NDA stuff, so I can't do too much about my work website or anything. So,
but people can find you on Google Plus at just your name, Curtis Boyle?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook as well, too, but I don't use that quite as often.
All right, Curtis B., look for him in the chat room. And man, thank you for being in the chat room. You're always in there supportive with good ideas and suggestions and everything. We really appreciate it.
It's so nice to see you and talk to you.
Yes, pity I didn't meet you there in person, but next time I get out there, which I'm not sure when that is, I'll make sure to bring some stuff.
I promise not to leave the country. Actually, that's
Ever
a
again.
lie. I don't promise that.
Total lie.
But you won't leave the country on purpose when you're coming.
Right.
Yeah, well, I have to leave the country to come see you guys.
Yeah, exactly. She's in Calgary. Wait a minute. All right. Let's take a quick break and thank Newtech with the TriCaster. That's what we're using to stream our live production here. And it's like having a live production truck in a convenient portable box, the TriCaster 850. 24-channel system, everything you need to make a TV show, including amazing virtual sets. You can use it for desktop or portable production. We use it both ways. CES, we take the TriCaster with us. Here we're using it in the studio. Lets us broadcast, live stream, project, and record HD video. We're working on that HD feed. We've experimented with it, and the TriCaster makes that possible. To find out more, visit newtek.com, NEWTEK.
Just real quick about New Tech. Normally I do these splashy transitions and everything. I thought this week I'd show this off because that was done, created with the TriCaster, doing like the calendar drops with the overlays and stuff, creating them as transitions. So it's dynamic if you want to actually get in there and make your own transitions as well.
So that's not a graphic that you're playing. That's a TriCaster.
Well, yeah, I used the TriCaster tools to create that.
Awesome. So. All right, let's bring in our next guest, Father Robert Ballacer, in the Catholic Church, an uber geek of epic proportions, you said. Sent us a great YouTube video, which was, I think, what caught our eye.
Seal the deal.
I don't know if you've got a little bit of that.
Let me work on that. Yeah.
But, including when we read your email on Buzz Out Loud years ago, which jogged my memory when I saw that. I was like, I actually remember that. So welcome, Father Robert.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for being here. So tell us a little bit about what you already told us in the video, so that the rest of the folks know all of the techie things that you're up to.
Right. So, the first thing has to be, yes, I'm actually a Catholic priest. This is not just a disguise. To get away from
it's not like when Leo puts on something.
That's right, right. Yeah, we're not yet at that level. I've been a Catholic priest for almost 5 years. I've actually been a member of a religious order of the Catholic Church called the Jesuits for about 15.
You may know them as the people who brought you all the names of California's cities.
That's right.
Among many other things.
And interstates, among other things.
Yeah.
But like in the United States, we run 28 colleges and universities, about 65 high schools, a number of parishes, research centers, retreat centers. Fordham, Georgetown, Boston College, Santa Clara University, San Francisco, Gonzaga. Those are all ours. So we're a very sort of education-based religious order, and so maybe it shouldn't be a surprise, although it does seem to be a surprise to a lot, that we also have Jesuits who are very deeply involved in engineering, tech, and the sciences. And that's me. I've been a geek for decades, way before I was a priest. I grew up in the Silicon Valley. I was one of these dumpster diver kids that would go into the back of these, startups and find whatever I could, bring it back, and make stuff out of it. And that was the genesis of my passion for tech.
But that's the story of Steve Wozniak, of Kevin Mitnick, of all these great hackers, is dumpster diving, finding interesting things and making good uses of it. What's one of the things that you built?
The coolest thing I ever built, I built a laser way before you could actually get a laser, like a laser pointer. That was back when you actually had to find components, and you had to find high power transformers to be able to power these gas tubes. And I actually had a bit too much fun burning holes in walls. Accidentally.
Whose walls were you burning holes in? Was it in your house?
Sometimes.
Just wherever
it went through your house and the neighbor's house, and then just a long streak. It was like real
now
genius
I know
in
where
there.
Mission Impossible 4 gets ideas from.
Yeah.
I started getting into lasers after I saw a copy of Real Genius. And I found out lasers are very disruptive.
Did you try to make popcorn with your lasers? Right. That's the question.
Did you fill a house with popcorn? Come on, everyone wants to know this.
I actually tried. I was only able to pop one kernel, and that took like 5 minutes, so not so much with that.
Was that you at the movie theater that time?
Just trying to
that's
pop
entertaining, right?
That you ruined Bruce Almighty for me.
So when you moved on from laser pointers, what's some of the things you like to do now? What are some of your favorite pieces of technology you like to play with?
Right. So I mean, I get to play with a lot of tech. I actually run a little IPTV show. It's a little gadget review thing. I do in my spare time because I actually do have a job. But in my spare time, I've been playing with everything. I've had everything on the show from enterprise level technology, stuff from Cisco and from Polycom, all the way to the consumer level stuff. So, I mean, there's really no part of technology that I don't really enjoy.
Is there one thing in particular that you've been working on lately that you've been really into?
Actually, my hobby as of the last month has been all things rooted Android. And I've had a bunch of sets, everything from the Galaxy series of phones. I've got a new Nexus here, and it kind of brings back some of the early days of hacking when you were really sort of playing with technology that you were making do things other than it was designed to do. And that's that brings out the inner geek in me. So yeah, Android is sort of taking up my time right now.
Now, do you have the Galaxy Nexus on Verizon?
I actually have the international version, the GSM version.
So you would have just bought the unlocked GSM. You're using that. You must be using that on AT&T, huh?
I'm actually using it on T-Mobile.
Okay.
Yeah. I find I've got SIMs for all the major carriers. Well, the 2 GSM carriers we've got in the United States.
Right. Yeah.
And I go back and forth. I was getting better results off of T-Mobile. This was actually sent to me by a Jesuit who lives in Europe, and he was actually able to get me a copy and a unit and send it to me.
That's great. Yeah. Well, I got my wife the Samsung Galaxy S2 unlocked from Europe because that way you get it faster. It kind of sucks that we just have the situation where everything comes elsewhere first because the carriers want to take so long to map out their release schedules and trick you into 2-year contracts.
That's actually something that I think until Samsung specifically, because let's face it, they are the premier Android handset manufacturer. Until they figure out how to make their supply chain and their distribution chain a little bit more like Apple, Android's going to have difficulty catching up. When you've got the Samsung Galaxy S2 and you've got 7 different versions of it for the different carriers and different flavors within a single carrier, that's just no good.
So when you hear tech news, what's the stuff you like to hear? What's the stuff you want us to cover?
I love it when you cover the major events, live events. I love coverage from events like CES and from Interop, if you were ever to make it out there, because it's at those live events that you get a bit more than just the tech. You get a lot of people trying to sell you things, but you also get to see some of the buzz, some of the excitement of people who are actually stopping by to see what tech is there.
Yeah, it's a different energy. You're right.
It is a different energy, and it reminds me of the old days of Comdex. You don't get that anymore. It used to be when you had these shows, they would really show you technology that you had never seen before, and that you would not see outside of the show. That's not so much. I mean, if you look at last year's CES, I was actually very disappointed because it seemed like 90% of the show was iPad and iPhone accessories or competitors. That's not really pushing the bleeding edge. I like to see things that I can't see at the Best Buy. I like to see things that I can't find at Fry's Electronics. And so anytime you get a little glimpse of that, anytime you can find a story that shows me something that just makes me think, I'm there.
The iLounge Pavilion is supposed to be like 30% bigger than it was last year. So I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing for you. Although maybe you'll see stuff that you can't find at Best Buy. But I agree with our good father on the energy at CES. You get these folks who are walking the floor and they're so stoked to be there, and they're going up to every booth and talking to people, and some of that is like vaporware that's never actually even going to come out. But there is a certain energy you don't get anywhere else. You're certainly not going to get it from that retail store.
Yeah. Is there something in particular you're looking forward to hearing about or seeing at CES this year? Because we're going to be there.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm starting to get the flood of emails from all the vendors, which is always fun. Could we just take 30 minutes out of your time? So, that's all. Of course, most of it is iPad apps, iPad accessories. I expect that. What I'm waiting for is to see if Ford comes back. They had those the little self-driving cars out in the main parking lot last year. And that was actually fascinating tech, and I don't think it got enough exposure. So I'm waiting to see if they are coming back, if they have another version of that, or if they've got some applied product from that technology, because I'd really like to check that out.
Well, we'll definitely be talking to them. I know Leo's got a dinner set up with Alan Mulally, the CEO, so maybe he can get some inside scoops while we're there. Are you going to be at CES?
Oh, absolutely. I'll be there 2 days before. I'm going to go to Digital Experience and Showstoppers, stay the entire show, come back to DC absolutely exhausted.
Well, you got to stop by and say hello. We're going to be in the South Hall, in the lower level, right inside.
I will.
Excellent. The Techstop.net is your website. Is that right?
That's right.
Tell folks about what they can expect when they go there, and anything else that you want to talk about before we let you go.
Well, the Techstop is it's sort of an enthusiast blog. It goes through its phases of inactivity, like unfortunately a lot of blogs. I have several people who help me with content for this, but it's also a really good place to find the reviews that we have on the tech that comes into the lab. And essentially, what I decided to do at the very beginning of the process is I decided I did not want to do negative reviews. There's so many of those out there. So we do really in-depth reviews. We get a product, we play with it for weeks, if not months. And if I like it, if it's something that I would actually spend my money on, then I go ahead and make the review and push it out there. Because that's really sort of our vibe. I want to show you the tech that I would actually use.
So if you can't say anything nice, you don't say anything at all?
Yeah, which I'm not sure if it's a Catholic thing, but
I think that's that goes beyond that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's an absolute pleasure getting to talk to you. Thank you so much for following us all these years and for sending in the YouTube video. Can't wait to see you at CES.
I'll see you there. I'll stop by.
All right. Sounds good. Father Robert Ballacer, the Techstop.net.
Thanks, Father Robert.
Bye,
All right.
Father Robert.
We got one more guest to bring in now before we finish up here. Excited to welcome Kathleen Fuller to our open mic. Hi, Kathleen.
Hey, Kathleen.
Elementary music teacher in Spokane, Washington, and you're just back from Japan. You lived there for 6 years?
Yes. I lived 2 years up in Fukushima, which is now world famous.
Yeah.
And then 4 years in Tokyo.
So when you were in Japan, I bet you were into technology.
Good place to be.
Exactly.
Yes.
Anything you miss particularly about the tech scene there after moving back to Washington?
You see everything really early over there. I mean, you just hop on a subway going down to Akihabara, and then you can kind of have your choice. You get the best cameras first, the best prices, the newest gadgets, things that I had never heard of that, you kind of stumble through going through the Japanese translations, but it's really neat. I had a 10 megapixel camera like a year before I heard of anybody getting them in the US, so it's really nice.
I also find I was lucky enough to visit Japan last year just for a couple of weeks, that the enthusiasm that Japanese people have for gadgets it's unparalleled. You can't find that anywhere else in the world, and it's such a it's an acceptance thing. I mean, if you're super into a new gadget, it seems like it's part of the culture there, that people are very excited about it rather than kind of poo-pooing each other.
Yeah. I've definitely noticed that since I've come back to the U.S., I have less friends to kind of geek out with about all my gadgets. Because back there, everybody has at least an iPhone or an Android phone, and we have the best cameras, and we play with all of our stuff and share about it a lot more than they do here. Kind of here, it's more of, this is a tool that I have to have, and over there, it's like a toy.
Kathleen, did you set up a bunch of contacts so people can send you lots of stuff? Because that's what I would do. If I was in Japan for any set amount of time, I would make sure that I had good friends. I'm like, hey, I hear you're getting that Samsung product for Sony product, or that Walkman Z. Maybe you could send it over. Did you establish contacts and that you're keeping in touch with?
Well, I know quite a few people over there, including a couple people who work at the Apple Store in Tokyo, but you don't really hear about it. They just kind of show up, because I don't fluently read Japanese, so I wouldn't know that they're coming out. But I did, I was teaching second grade last year at an international school, so I did get to see the 3DS the week it came out, because a couple of kids in my class had them, brought them in to show me, so that was fun.
Do you run over and be like, hey, let me see that?
I know, I was like, can I look at it, please?
It's for class, I tell you.
Is there a gadget that you got a hold of when you were over there that you still have, that you're like super excited that you were able to get a hold of it?
I bought a video camera shortly before I left, about 6 months before, but I haven't really researched them in the US, so I don't know how different it is, or ahead or behind it is. It's a Sanyo video camera. It's a full HD video camera. It's super, super tiny. And it can take pictures and video at the same time.
Too much video. I cut you off for a second.
Yeah, sorry.
Your Skype paused right when you were showing us the video.
Yeah, the Sanyo Zacti. I remember that thing. It looks like it has a unique form factor for the audio listeners. It's kind of like you're holding a gun, which is one of the reasons I never bought it, because I'm never going to be holding this thing up that looks black. It looks like a gun
at the airport
in New York City.
In New York City.
Kathleen's is a little more, it's
less
got
likely to be confused.
It's less gunnish in that
But it
nice
has
maroon
16
color.
gigabytes of built-in memory as well as an SD card slot, so it can hold a lot of stuff, which was really nice. I wanted to have that for my sister's wedding. But that was the newest thing that I bought. And my camera I got for actually, it was normally $400, and I got it on a discount Japanese website called Kakaku for $170, I think, when it came out. So that's an awesome resource if you can muddle through the Japanese.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we mentioned that you're a music teacher, and you're teaching music now back in Washington. Do you use technology in the classroom a lot? And if so, what kinds of things do you use?
I have kind of some new technology that I haven't used a lot before. Last year, I used my iPad a lot. We had a really nice computer lab with brand new iMacs for the entire class to use, which was really awesome, and a smart board. Right now, I've got an AverVision document camera and a projector, so I've been using that a lot more. We don't have quite the resources that I'm used to, but we do have a few mobile computer labs that I roll in for a couple classes.
Now, what is it about tech news in general, and of course Tech News Today, that keeps you interested, that makes you want to hear what's going on every day?
I've had a lot of kind of tech friends in Japan that I would talk to about all the time, and now that I don't really have that resource anymore, I have more craving to hear what's going on, so I end up watching a lot more TWiT shows than I used to.
Is there an area you wish we covered a little more, or maybe a little less, or any tips that could help us make the show even better?
I really like the covering kind of the political end of it, because I think a lot of people are really misinformed about what's going on, like the SOPA stuff and things like that. I also really enjoy the iPad apps, the iPhone apps, all the kind of stuff that I can use right now. Because I'm not too big into, I don't do any coding or writing programs or working with hardware, because I have all Macs. But the iOS programs really interest me.
That's Sarah. That's Sarah's iPad today, right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kathleen, you and I should be friends.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Kathleen, for taking the time and for watching the show. Is there anything else you want to mention, let people know about before we let you go?
Well, I do have a recommendation for the Geek Show that you guys do with Scott. And it's the newsletter I get for Geek Girls. It's called the Mary Sue, and it's very, very fun. And I think they could, throw in a couple of Geek Girl stories once in a while, since you guys are both guys and do that show.
Excellent, yeah.
I know about the Mary Sue from Veronica Belmont, who reads it and occasionally will tweet out links to articles that she really likes.
So how is it spelled? Is it M-A or M-E?
M-A.
Like the name.
Mary Sue.
The Mary Sue.
The name, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's a good tip.
The stories I find on there are stories I usually don't see anywhere else. I think they do a really good job of finding stuff that's really interesting, for Geek Girls at least. I find a lot of them interesting. I think I've already tweeted out a couple articles just from this morning's newsletter.
Awesome. Well, that's a great tip. I got my job in San Francisco from the San Francisco Women on the Web list. So I'm very I have good feelings about women's tech lists. They're always good resources for all kinds of good stuff. The Mary Sue.
Yeah.
All right, Kathleen Fuller, thank you so much for being
Thanks
with us today.
for having me on. It's very exciting.
Nice to meet you. And that wraps up our open mic episode.
I don't want to say that any open mic episode is ever better than the last or better than what the next one will be, but this was an awesome group of folks.
Fantastic.
You guys are
interesting, smart, well-spoken people out there.
Yeah, I hope you all join us again. You should be guests on the show.
Yeah, I know.
You're great.
They really should be. I mean, a bunch of people in the chat room were saying that too. Like, you should just have these people on all the time.
Yeah, not that I expect anything less.
No, of course.
But it's just such a pleasant surprise to see you all.
We have the
interacting.
smartest, bestest audience in all of media.
We love you,
so
man.
We do love you.
So thanks, everybody, for watching and listening, too. And even though you might not have been on the show, we appreciate you just as much and just as well. And thank you for all your support throughout the year. And let us know, TNT@twit.tv, what it is that you think of the show. And any chance we have of improving it and making it better for you, we will definitely take into account. That's why we do the subreddit. That's why we take voicemails and emails and all of that stuff. Tomorrow's show, Best of 2011. It's our biggest stories. We're just going to cover, I don't know, 5 or 6 of them. We'll see how it goes. But check that out. You can find us on the web, twit.tv/TNT. Email us, like I said, TNT@twit.tv. Or give us a call, leave us a voicemail. We aren't going to play them until next week. But you can still leave them, 260-TNT-SHOW. We'll see you tomorrow.